All right, welcome to Raising Funds for World Domination, Day 92. So, as for the typical intro, nothing has changed here. I did a bit of work on the next video. There's still a bit of editing, maybe a couple days. I need to pick up on the pace and get that out. Actually, one other thing I did today was that the thing I was working on last night with the block mining simulation game, that's starting to drive me nuts. The screen layer merging, and I thought about it, and I think I came up with a possible way to simplify the code and to fix all the screen merging issues. And then I also thought about it. There's a possibility I could maybe even merge. So I have two, but previously I had like 6 different merge functions. Now I only have 2, and I might be able to get it down to 1. So we'll see if I can make progress on that tonight. So I pushed the code that I had running last night, and I think this is broken. Orthoplex 64 sends wave. Yoshikaga says hello world. How's it going? Okay, this isn't too broken, but there's still some edge cases. Interesting. Looks like that one doesn't. That one actually looks pretty good. I think it happened on the other machine. Oh yeah, it still doesn't. It's not doing what it's supposed to there. Or maybe that's just because of the spacing. It's probably because it's only one character width. Either way, I'm going to try and replace this mess that I have. Actually, is this even the right version of the code? No, that's an older version. All right, I guess that's why. I merged this in just a few minutes ago. I must have merged in the older version. All right, that's what I thought I was working with. All right, for today's coding, I actually drew a diagram to try and remind me what I'm doing. Thanks. So that's what I'm going to try and implement tonight, so that the new algorithm is basically going to get rid of all of this And we're going to have two arrays. So it's going to scan through line by line. We're going to traverse over the x-axis. And there's going to be two resulting arrays. So it's going to going to be basically two passes. So you go from left to right, and then another pass from right to left, and build two arrays. And the arrays are going to figure out the contents of the arrays when inspected together. We'll illustrate which characters have been occluded or suppressed. And then I can iterate over those two resulting arrays and look through them, and where both of them indicate a character at the same level, then that means that the character is visible. And if the character is only visible in one, then that means it's been that's a position where it's been occluded. And then if there's a position with nothing, there's no character. So let's try to code that. Have you considered taking up a teaching job again? Comes to mind when listening. You describe your thought process. I did have that, although I question, like, the college I was teaching at was a well, actually, if you want to hear my my more full thoughts on the education system where I was teaching, watch my video on immigration. And I think actually they're laying off a bunch of teachers now, so they're massively downsizing because I think there's been a much needed decrease. Honestly, I want to do something that I can build upon for the future. And like, if I was back teaching at the college, there's quite a real chance that I would have gotten laid off recently. So. And I mean, the other thing is like, not to try and like be a nice guy, but ethically, I don't think it's a sustainable career move to be part of a system that's not really doing ethically good things. And I think when I was teaching there, it was pretty good. And, definitely there were other teachers who were, trying hard and helping the students and stuff, but it just seemed like it was an institution that was like expanding, decay. Like, honestly, I held back a bit. There's some specific cases of how, like they had a supposed co-op program and stuff, and there's other whispers I heard there that didn't make it into the video that I'm like, this is not a intrinsically virtuous system. So something's going to break eventually. So why build a castle on top of sand? Basically, that's part of my thought process. Now, I was technically wrong because it continued a lot longer than I thought it could. And then I don't know, maybe it'll just like start back up again. Like maybe we'll find another country to bring tons and tons of immigrants from, and it'll just keep going and going. And but yeah, I think the like if you question the value to the audience of, say, producing YouTube videos, I think that the audience gets more, like the impact on educating the world I've had through like the YouTube videos in aggregate has probably been greater than standing in front of a classroom of 40 students. So now the money has not been as significant. But then again, like when I think about the competitive aspect of the future, students are going to go, the place where people consume education is going to go, like when you're getting educated, you don't care how much the professor makes. You're just going to go to the source of information that's highest quality. Interesting perspective. Did refer to it as a mill. Yeah, I think it's pretty widely referred to as a degree mill, or I guess someone said I was generous calling it a degree mill, because a lot of the things their diploma is not degrees, but yeah, yeah, I guess I've said what I have to say. I'll just be repeating myself. My thought process is like, if you want to get on something that has a chance of really being really successful and making a lot of, there has to be some like intrinsic growth model that can keep growing, and I just don't see that in the whole business model was just centered around students basically using the education as like a cost of immigration. The value of actual degree is quickly degrading as well. AI isn't helping. Does their homework and takes tests from them. Yeah, that's I left there like well before the age of AI was. Oh well, cheating was a massive problem when I was there. And I mean, there's so many things that are combining together to make society degrade all at once. Like if you have a very high trust society, like if you imagine, back in like the early 1900s, like when Nikola Tesla studied in school, I would imagine that like the rates of plagiarism and stuff like that in the year 1900 for like physics degrees and stuff was much lower, because at that point it's like the value of faking your knowledge and stuff, I think, was much more diminished. But now there's so much pressure on students. There's so much less, there's so much less like precise scrutiny on things. It's more about just, getting the degree so you can get like immigration status and stuff. Like this, so many ulterior motives you can have other than actually learning. TBH for programming, it has been degrading for a while now. Yeah, that's why I don't know what how education is going to work in the future, but I have a feeling that the online aspect of it is going to continue to grow. Whether that's a good thing or not is questionable. How is the YouTube stuff going for you? So the last YouTube payment that went through was actually a record low for the last 6 months. It was $1,500. It's been drifting down ever since Christmas, although it is starting, this month is going to be, this is the first month in a few months that is where the amount is going to be higher than the previous month. But I've also had just a bunch of other stuff that's been distracting me from producing content in the last month or so. But I got a couple more videos out this month, and I'm gonna have another video out in a few days. X Dragon X says hello. How's it going? Which type of software development language is perfect to say is perfect to easy and better programming? Which type of software development language is perfect to easy and better programming? I don't know, Python maybe? It's not a very well articulated question. Nice, looking forward to them. Yeah, I've actually live streaming has kind of informed what I should maybe make content on. So the next one is some like career stuff. Change of pace would be nice, even in streams. Doesn't have to be drastic. Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think I have objectives. I want to once and for all fix these like rendering issues so that I can do the next release of this game idea, and then that way when if people do actually manage to try it, it works pretty well. But it's there's still some remaining glitchiness in it. My hope is by day 100 I'll have most of that ironed out, and then I don't know, I actually wouldn't even mind taking a break for a while. Just go walk, maybe walk around, do some live streams, go walk around Kitchener or something. I have the mobile streaming on the phone, which can do it. Man, what are you coding? I'm coding a terminal-based video game where you simulate the process of mining blocks. I've got some other videos on my channel about it. Hello, sir. Do you think that in today's market, who you know is more important than actual ability or skill? Because sometimes it feels like no matter what you do, you just don't get a chance. I think simply, if you can get to a position where you can just like know a lot of people, that does. I think there's a point of diminishing returns. There's a point where, like, if you're born in the middle of nowhere, you have a small family, and like went to small classes and don't have a big network, that'll really hurt you. But I think beyond that, like if you can have, you know, a few hundred people on LinkedIn or something that you know, it can help you get jobs. Especially now that everything is like AI. If it's someone, people don't know what to trust anymore. So if they get a recommendation about you through someone they already know, then at that point they're like, okay, this is not like a bot or like, I mean, there's people in the US that were charged with, they hired like North Koreans accidentally in their company because they weren't vetting people. So, I mean, that's a concern. And if you have to be careful you don't accidentally hire a bot or you know, spies or something like that. And if you just like, even if you don't know the person well, if you went to school with them or something, you get a recommendation from them, they can help you. Ryan says, hello there. How's it going? William Elder says, what's up? Alpha Omega says, hi. How's it going? Sweet. Is this game for mobile? No, it's only for the Linux terminal. Want to work in Windows and Mac as well? Probably not out of the box. There are some certain features in it. There's a couple, like most of the code would work. I just have not built any like compatibility with a couple things like getting the terminal size and also listening to resize events. I would need specific operating system specific features to try and to actually access those features. Just haven't not implemented them yet. How was your experience in your first software engineering job? My first software engineering job was an internship at a company that was in the they were a small startup. They don't exist anymore. I was working on they got me to do a few things. Got me to write some they got me to write a jQuery plugin for their website, and they got me to do some migration work for a source control software they were using. I can't remember what it was called. It was something. It was a Microsoft thing where you could check out. You could check out individual files and stuff and work on them. And they got me to migrate. They got me to find a migration pathway to migrate their code base into Team Foundation Server, which was the newest. I think this was. When would that have been? When did Git come out? I think it was I think it might have been just after or just before Git came out, so that's why they didn't use Git. Git came out in 2005. Wasn't it 2000? 2005? I thought it was 2009, but I think you get this a lot, but your voice is so relaxing. Yeah, I do get that a lot. I guess that's good. Just checked 2005. Oh, okay. Huh. Yeah, I thought it was a bit. I thought it was like two. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess I don't know why we didn't consider Git then, because that was 2009 or 10. Which direction do you want to take with your channel for the remainder of the year? Do you wish to do more discussion based on whiteboard topics, computer software, or just entertainment? I think it'll probably be just a continuation of the random mix of styles and content. I have kind of a very large list of things I want to produce, but I'm just not fast enough in getting them produced. The next video is going to be like some career type advice. I guess I have a few weeks ago I made a list of like quick videos I can get out quick, and I'm probably going to go back and check that. So it's a good question. I probably will, after I get the next video out, probably this weekend, I'll probably take a step back and just think about what is the next thing I should focus on to just increase the velocity of content. Do you learn more from startups or from established companies? I would say you learn a lot from both. At established companies, you learn. There's definitely a lot to learn at established companies, although I'd say like the maximum amount of learning is maybe like if you do a year or two at an established company, you're probably going to like plateau. But at a startup, things are going to be way more dynamic. Like even in a year or two, the startup is going to change. And also you get, if you're at a startup, like if you're interested in entrepreneurship, working at a startup is a good idea because you can actually you can see the founders face to face, and you can you'll overhear like business related discussions. Whereas if you work as like an engineer, as an option engineer at Amazon, you're going to have no insight into the marketing or business aspect of the company at all. You're just a cog in a machine. I came here from how to make a CPU. Excellent. That's my most popular video. All right, let's think about how my algorithm is going to work. I guess maybe I should have probably scanned this. This is my diagram I'm looking at. The old pen and paper. Yeah, I find that when you're trying to figure out a new algorithm, that's my go-to to just visualize it. It's a good way to just visualize your thoughts. You can draw out the counter examples and stuff. Keep forgetting why this is supposed to work. Oh, nice. We got a super chat. Array. Array Lawrence. I assume that is. It's annoying that it doesn't actually show the full name. If people are nice enough to super chat, the least they could do is actually print people's full name. Thank you for the £1. Do you know anything about Lua? I don't know anything about it. Never tried it. Not much, but here's the start for the deep water port. Thank you. That'll go a very long way. I appreciate it. All right, I have an intuition for this, how this is supposed to work. I should have articulated this a bit better. So when I'm traversing from left to right, I go down, find the first solid block, find the first solid block, find the first layer number with a solid block starting at that character. And with right to left, find the first solid block ending at that column. Going to head off. Keep doing what you're doing. Stay tuned. Thank you very much. Thanks for stopping by and for the £1. Lua, do you mean NeoVim config language? Is that the config language for NeoVim? Lua is used by NeoVim. Also sort of joking. Don't know where Lua is used beside NeoVim. Okay. Yeah, I think Lua is used a lot for... I first heard of it. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if anyone knows this. I think Lua was used for the World of Warcraft user interface years ago. Because I remember back when I played World of Warcraft, and the user interface would break. There was some like coding language in there that I didn't know at all. I think it was called Lua, and I think it's used in a lot of contexts for building user interfaces. It's good to know that it's used for NeoVim. I know one of the things that made me hesitant to learn how to do like Vim plugins was I think it has its own scripting language or something for making Vim plugins. And I don't really want to learn some one-off language that's never going to be used anywhere else. What's your vitamin stack? What does that mean? Like what vitamins do I take? I bought some Centrum multivitamins, but I forget to take them. Yeah, just the Centrum vitamins. I should take them more. I should also start buying some of them supplements from all the bodybuilders and stuff. It's really easy to get vitamin D deficiency. I go outside sometimes. I got my most recent videos are taken outside. I got sunburn too. What is this script for? I mean, this piece of paper. This is scribblings. Trying to write an algorithm to merge different layers of text together and render them in the terminal. It would take around 500 IU. Do your own research. If you're taking advice from a YouTuber or bodybuilder, you've lost the plot. Maybe that's my eventual plan, is to sell supplements. You're foiling my plan to get rich selling vitamins. Imagine out of nowhere you start selling beetroot extract. I could. Maybe that's what I'll have to do. To pay the rent and just sell out. I'll buy some white labeled vitamins of some kind. RX. I could. The question is, how much do I sell it for? And do I include it with like some blockchain? $29.99. That's a pretty good price. Well, why not a subscription service? You think monthly services will ever die like the CD? I think in general with like services and businesses and stuff. If it makes money, if it's profitable, it will continue. Now, people always have like cynical takes about capitalism and stuff, but I think you have to reason about it more as like an evolution of a system where, if you think about all businesses, regardless of morality, like unless we impose a law that says we have to get rid of monthly services, if it's more profitable to do a monthly service, eventually that'll just become more and more common. Because the ones that do that stuff and make a lot of money will outcompete the ones that don't. I think it can shift fast. If companies get wind, it does. I'm not sure what you mean by that. What do you mean by it can shift? Like the economy can shift if companies get wind? Like as in they hear about something? Get wind of how people want a good product without a monthly fee. Maybe if the thing is, if responding to customer demands makes more money, then that'll happen. But if ignoring customer demands and giving them a worse product and charging them more money, if that, at the end of the day, if that just works, then that's what will become successful, because those businesses will make more money and outcompete and buy up all the other ones. Debbie Downer. It's realistic, your take. And that's the thing. And it's not just about capitalism. It's more of like a law of nature. I mean, we can kind of, people say that capitalism is like a cancer, and in a way, it kind of is. If there's no law, capitalism needs laws. Capitalism needs guardrails. Those guardrails are laws. So if we don't have effective law enforcement, then capitalism will get out of control and create the most perverse systems possible. But then there's also like the limits of it. Like cancer doesn't take over cancer does exponential growth, but it doesn't take over the world because it's a local optima. You can have a cancer that grows rapidly, but then it stops when the patient dies. So I think we may go through an era where we get a ton of predatory capitalism, but eventually people will get fed up of living in that system, and then there will be some forcing function. Either we'll have better laws, better enforcement, or the system will collapse, and then we'll have a new system. And then that system will also be governed by exponential growth. So we start at top layer. We go down until we find something with a solid character. Forcing function is the key. It's true. But what will be that forcing function? So if In your personal opinion, what programming concept is overrated or underrated? I think overall the industry seems to move in like fads. I moved away from web development years ago because it seemed like they weren't doing any new innovation, and the industry was just about reinventing frameworks and stuff. I would give maybe a more general answer to the question. So there's like there's a kind of a, I don't know what you call it, like a paradox of learning, which I guess doesn't exist in mathematics or other fields, because there's like one true truth in mathematics, but in something like programming, like for example, for a framework, it takes a long time to learn stuff, and there's an endless cycle of, so new people come in, they learn stuff, invent new, amazing fundamental things like relational calculus and all kinds of theoretical algorithms and models and stuff. And then they start with specifics, but they try to generalize it because generalizations are more powerful. But then generalizations are also more complicated. Like if you take any kind of like computability theory stuff, like NP completeness or parsing or something like that. So then what happens is new young people come into the field. They ignore the old stuff the old timers know because it's complicated and takes years to learn. And then they start with specifics again, and they start building up the building blocks again. But then they just reinvent the stuff that's already been invented with a new name. And to fully answer your question, the concepts that are overrated are like the new great thing. Like every few years, people will reinvent something that already existed, and they'll have like a new name on it. Because there's also, as a researcher or an academic, if you get to name something, you can be like the world's leading pioneer in this specific field of, adversarial learning or some kind of, really specific topic. You can be known as like the guy who invented something. And if you take something that already exists and reinvent it, or just make it like a bit more complicated or add something new, and then people get crazy about it, but it's really something that existed years ago. And those are the things that are overrated. Can you mew? I don't know. What is that? You just like stick your jaw out or something? I'll have to watch some YouTube tutorials on how to mew correctly. Basically, marketing is everything. I don't know if it's everything, but I mean, in programming, you have to actually build some stuff. But marketing, it is a significant thing. I think like the more hardcore of a programmer you are, the more you see through marketing. But at the same time, you also need, if you don't do any marketing, then people don't know your stuff exists. let's mentally trace through if this is going to work. So our initialize 0. Cycle through the ij. Bottom layer gets a value of 2. Active layer, active character layer is 2. First solid layer is equal to active character layer, so that gets added. Count is decremented. Next, same thing happens for layer 2. 2 gets added to the array. Then also 1. For the second character of 1. How to make a CPU? It's a good question. I get that question a lot, so I made a video you can check out on my YouTube channel. All right, will this work? So Ham Mahes, how are you? Says hello. How's it going? New here. What are you doing? I'm currently working on a terminal-based video game. So it's a video game that you play in the Linux terminal where you simulate the process of mining blocks. And I'm currently working on some user interface updates to fix some bugs in how screen layers are merged. I have it won't compile right now, but I have some other videos on my channel that illustrate how the game works and show some playback of it. Coding time. Hello, says Jolene Merville. How's it going? Gonna stick here for a while. Yeah, not too. It's not too exciting tonight. I've written and rewritten this code for like 3 times, but it keeps getting insanely complicated. That's why I decided tonight to just kind of totally do a rewrite. I think the recent approach has a lot higher chance of working. And ideally being simple. Trying to figure out why my test suite is taking 12 seconds to run. Not sure. It could be a lot of stuff. What type of songs do you like? Depends what mood I'm in. I like a lot of the random stuff that comes up in YouTube recommendations. Random electronic music stuff. Hey, doesn't your field of terminal programming have massive potential for profit in finance throughout your career? Did you ever consider your skills applicable in finance as a means to support yourself? I actually worked, one of the companies I worked at was a Forex market maker. One of the first things I wanted to do, like when I was 19, before I even came to school, I tried, that was what got me into coding, was trying to write an automated trading bot to trade the stock market. And I wrote like thousands of lines of code, and it was very poor quality. So then I decided to get a degree in software engineering. When I first started, I thought maybe I'd go into like quantitative finance or something. And then I ended up working for a Forex market maker. And then once I learned more about the industry, I realized that as like an individual retail investor, I would have no hope. And it's really kind of like an insider's game. And it also just incredibly competitive. And then I guess so the other alternative would be like working for one of those companies. But I think like quantitative finance, quantitative analysts and stuff like that, that was very lucrative for individuals. Like I think I kind of missed the boat on that. I think it's just too professionalized now. Quite a tough industry. Sports betting was a thing to do at that time. Yeah, my assessment was the industry had been like, so this is around 2009 or so. I think like probably the peak quantitative analyst time would have been maybe like early 2000s or so. And then after that, it got kind of like incredibly competitive and automated. So unless you like there was just way too big of a supply of people wanting to go into those companies. So even if you're good, it would not be a guaranteed career path, and you would never be able to like trade with your own money, or like you would never, if you did it on your own, you would not be successful because you wouldn't have the money, and also I'm sure if you work at one of those companies, you get a much better insider view. Maybe you could go work at one of those companies and like work in the industry for 10 years and learn the ropes and then come out. But then the problem is like, if it's competitive and you can't get in, then Purple Dino Addict says, how to make a CPU. That's a good question. I have a video on that topic. It's always easy to find the perfect market 10 years after the fact. Yep. Yeah, the like web dev software thing, that was the perfect market. The perfect time to get into that was 10 years ago. I'm kind of surprised how the software engineering industry has kind of declined. It was like pretty rapid. I mean, I'm sure it'll come back, but it seems pretty brutal right now. Interesting. Shoot too bad you missed the boat. I guess you're right. Competition makes that a long shot. Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily know for sure that I missed the boat. It was like, I mean, I missed the boat in terms of not being born at the right time. And then even if I was, you know, if I like started school, if I started university in like the year 2001 or something, that would have been the ideal time. But at that time, like if I graduated back then, I don't know if I would have even went to university, or, and then also like growing up in the middle of nowhere. I think it would help to have like connections to get into those places. Or not necessarily like connections, but being like just getting into the environments. Like if I grew up in New York or something, I'd have a totally different social network and perspective. And Read Fundamentals of Logic Design, 4th edition by Charles H. Roth Jr. Then worked for AMD for 10 years. I'll teach you how to make CPU. Yeah, there's a lot of work involved in making a CPU. Game Dev Chad says, Screets, how's it going? Or you can watch the video. Yeah, I think my video is preferable. It's much more information dense. Headache, otherwise great. Excellent. Minus the headache. All right, let's see if the logic of this is totally broken. Oh yeah, that is right. Is Bob good? I don't think so. Got one of my GPU refurbs done and confirmed working with good temps. Excellent. Oh yeah, I was going to ask if you had success at that. That's a very intense project. That's a bug. Three left to go. Need thinner thermal pads. Just for back plates as well. We do first one when they arrive. Interesting. How much are those worth if you get them working? Do you see yourself reconnecting with Waterloo in any shape or form? I guess I'm not opposed to that, although I'm not sure what in what aspect I would reconnect. I guess even when I was there, my experience there was just I did have a crew of friends. Actually, I was talking to them today even people that I were in my class that I like a crew of people I just did assignments with. But other than that, I don't know. It's like a fast-paced place where they bring in students. The students study, do assignments, and then they're out the door. Or you do that for 5 years, do assignments in your room, and that's your experience. I mean, there's clubs and stuff, but I didn't get too much into them. Is this your 2D mining game thing? I thought I was reading this game was finished or something, that it wouldn't be worked on anymore. Did you change your mind, or was I misinformed? I had no idea where I read this. It was a good while ago. So the game, I've been working on it. Actually, I've been working on it for the past 92 days. I did a new release to fix a bunch of stuff recently. But I plan to I'm going to incorporate it into my long-term plan of projects. I've been it's a released and it's done technically, like a first initial version that's playable. Right now I'm just kind of working on trying to optimize stuff and fix bugs and whatnot. But I have some other grand visions for it for the future. I saved probably 300 per card doing this. Probably not worth the work. But I figured I should know how to do GPU teardown. That makes it worthwhile. 300 per card. I guess depending on how many, depending on how long it takes. But if it's like several hours worth of work, then if you put it down to hourly wage, it's probably not terrible. Are you thinking of making it a MUD? So MUD standing for multi-user dungeon. I know of them. I haven't ever really played a MUD game before. After I fix like the usability and lag issues, which I don't know, I was saying before, maybe by day 100 or something, but I'm kind of thinking it'll be a little bit longer than that. There's a few optimizations I want to add that'll make it, I think, a lot more playable. And once I add those, I'll maybe take a step back and reflect on, whether it's worth to put more time into it. But the next large piece of development work, I'd probably work on multiplayer. And I think even with the very rudimentary features in the game, having a multiplayer would, I think, add a pretty big selling point to it. Time to find exploits in your release. Yeah, there's no, I guess if you do find exploits, then let me know. There's no, it doesn't do any networking at the moment, so. Gonna head to bed. Have a good evening. Have a good night. Netcode would take months, but would be very, very cool to play on stream. Yeah, actually, to be honest, the networking code, like the base level networking, like the being able to connect and send messages and stuff, already exists. But the what I don't have is like sessions. So right now, if any client that connects to the server is playing as the one single character, so I need to add a mechanism for like the server side support for multiplayer, or like to acknowledge the existence of different users and retroactively making something multiplayer. Sounds like a hassle. Actually, to be honest, the first thing I did, I actually had basic multiplayer working before single player. So But there's with the existing thing, there's a lot of like the client. Right now, the client, for example, chunk initialization is done by the client, but I need to change that so it's done by the server instead. And there's a bunch of stuff that's going to have to be changed around the code. From a network perspective, basically RuneScape. I never played RuneScape, but I heard about it a lot before. I think that was a pretty addictive game, so maybe I'm on the right track. Just got back from a county fair. Teenagers everywhere. Well, that's good that there are young people in the world. A lot of places that I go, there's a lot of old people. Okay, that's kind of a stopgap, but let's see what this does. right, that's less broke than I expected it to be. Oh yeah, it doesn't check if the layer is active or not. It's not right. It's supposed to check if it's active. Oh, that's why. Because it's checking for the wrong layer. All right, that's looking better. So this looks all right. It's not insanely complicated. I guess one issue though is I need to for it to be efficient, it's supposed to check the changed flags. But I may have to add a slight have to add something to get it to update these bounds. Otherwise it may yeah, it's a tricky case. Technically you could have a character over top of another. You could have a small changed region, and then the actual changed region could expand out. So you'd have to like for the case where, if you imagine you have 100 layers You have like one 2-column character in the center and the top layer, and then you merge them down and it deletes everything in every layer below it. And if I don't have the change flags set correctly, that will make for bug cases. But I think this solution will work. Assuming my diagram is right. I basically do this forward pass so that gives me the list of things that are characters that are included on the right, and then I go to do this pass backwards the other way. It's gonna have to be slightly different, but and then in this I will check. So in cases where both of them are the same, that's a character that's on the top. When they're both positive and both the same, that's a character in the top layer. If one of them is a -1, that's an included character, that's going to have to be, I'll replace that with a space, or an included partial character. And this also allows me to do I can find the current color much easier, because that just means at any given point, I just find the topmost non-empty set of color codes. Now when I go the other way, this is going to be a problem. Alright, that should be able to... So for the forward direction, it'll be this. I might even be able to put this in a function. You'll remember me. Kind of. I do vaguely remember that name. Do you want to play my game? What game is it? Oh, is that the... Someone shared a game about, oh, Pokemon? I think it was. Oh yeah, the Pokemon one in the terminal. Yeah, I think I saw that. I took a quick look. Is this the start of a Saw movie? Nope. Just some coding and raising funds for world domination. It's the one... Oh yeah, I do remember. I did take a look at that, just quick. I didn't run it though. Sorry, I made a bad joke about the Jarapim. Do you want to play my game? Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. I forgot that. That's how the clown will say, like, "Do you want to play a game or something?" I haven't seen any of those movies. Looks cool, by the way, your game. Thank you. Oh, I guess you're talking about his game. Or maybe you're talking about mine. I don't know. Either way. Both? Excellent. Now neither one of us has to feel bad. I hate how the thing I want to do is simple, but my code has to be complicated. Right after that, the guy shows up with a baseball bat. The animation cuts from one to the other mid-sawing. Just not as noticeable as devs usually think. Oh, you're talking about if the stream was a Saw movie. Robert, are you going to add jump scare to your game? That is not a thought that had ever crossed my mind. But I guess now I have to think about whether I will do that. Robert, why do things need to be private in OOP if you don't make it don't make sense to me? It just means you can by making things private, you can decrease the complexity of your application. So if something's private, things outside the class, like if you have a giant application, there could be like thousands of things that interact with that member. But if you make it private, then you know that, like if you have a very small class with only a few methods, when you're like refactoring and trying to evaluate, bugs, if you know that a given function or a given variable can only be called privately within that class, now you can localize where your bugs are. And I think there's probably, there might be optimizations, definitely for static, but there might be some optimizations the compiler can do. For sure, like if you do a private static variable, you only need, I guess that could also happen for public, but yeah, let me think. I'm trying to think if there's cases where the compiler can do optimizations too. Any encapsulation that isn't just hinting successive? The Pythonic way of just prefixing to indicate don't touch feels great. I think anything, if it's enforced by the compiler, in my view, that's the most important thing. Because if the compiler forces it, then you're getting like strong guarantees about the correctness of your program. It's more so becomes important when applications get large. For Python stuff, if you're writing, less than 1,000 lines or something, you can usually kind of keep it all in your head. And it's public-private, it's kind of the same thing, but for large applications, if you have like thousands of classes, it just gives you much more opportunity for mistakes if everything can access the internal methods. And sometimes there's you may have cases where like a function it's like a helper function that should be private. And as a programmer's perspective, it's only the function as you wrote it is only correct if you call it from the same class, and you might like for example, you might have a method to like set up the database or like initialize the database, and that method should only be called as a private member from like the init method. But it might be invalid in your application to directly call the method to set up the database, because it might screw up the internal state of the class. Because if it's tracking all these like initialized objects, if you create an instance of it and you have this specific protocol in mind for how the state is supposed to be set up and torn down, and then someone else goes and calls what you thought was your private method that should never be called externally because you're sharing code with another programmer, that's another good case for a private. That sounds like the caller's problem. That's the thing, it is the caller's problem. And now the person calling the function has a problem. But if you make it private, now it's not possible. So the caller has to they would have to, if they have access to the code, they would have to explicitly change it from private to public. And in doing so, they'd be like, there's probably a good reason why that was private. And then if it breaks, now it's they only have themselves to blame. Sound like someone who's never had paying customers complain about breaking some feature that was never promised. Sure was marked with an underscore, but try explaining to your boss. Python is an interpreted language, so it makes sense. It is flexible. You sound like someone who's never had paying customers. You mean me, or with respect to the private public thing? My favorite kind of private is closures. Unbreakable privateness. Yeah, that's my functional programming. Pure functional programming is the language of gods. One nice thing about public-private is that IntelliSense won't suggest to you stuff you shouldn't be touching. I do disagree with many OOP practices and ideas. Would love some more name spacing for my C though. M75 says, hey, how's it going? Now, does this work? Just trying to pass the time. This is a good place to pass it. Although I may be nearing the end of the stream anyway, but what are you working on? I'm working on a terminal-based video game. It's a video game that you play in the Linux terminal where you simulate the process of mining blocks. Mining blocks of iron ore in a simulated, in an infinite procedurally generated universe. That sucks kind of if stream ended now. Yeah, I might, I don't know, I'll maybe try to get this one thing working here and then I'm probably going to call it a night. Going through that phase or something? What phase is that? Could be $1 million concept. Yeah, I think so. Breaking up. That's too bad. Mapping real life domain is compile time encapsulated inheritance hierarchy. It's usually a bad idea. I have no comment on that. Nothing to do, that's why I hopped on stream. Yeah, I think that's a common use of streams. People just need a place to chill. Like there's no people don't go to bars anymore. And it's also a very different clientele you get in bars. right. Oh, that's not minus minus, that is plus plus. Okay, I think that might work. Index out of bounds. All right, I think I'll leave it there for tonight. I got the first pass of the new occlusion detection for layer merging working. And I think it's I think that's going to work. So hopefully I can get this feature done soon and stop working on this bug fix that's been driving me nuts. All right, I'll be back for day 93 tomorrow. Later.